I'll grab it if I need to when you're working examples.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. I know the weather's a little messy today, but I'm glad y'all can make it. My name is Dawn Haberthur. I wrote my email address up here and it's on the screen. I am a district math specialist and I am lucky to go to 7 different elementary schools during the week, and Huebner's one of them, so quite a blessing. And I did this last year. This is the K through 2 session on how you can help your child at home with math, because math has changed a little bit since we were growing up. Can I get a show of hands who's a kinder parent? Ooh, okay. First grade? Okay. Any second grade? Okay, good. Well, K through 2, we got them all. Okay, so what we're going to do is go through, it's called For the Love of Math is what Huebner calls it, and we're just going to go through some things. I brought some items over here. I think most of you got some. It's kind of by grade level. Kinder first and second. There are some tens cards, some hundreds charts, whatever you'd like to take. And I mentioned earlier, if you want to go a grade level up, please do so. And your wonderful PTA has coffee and water over there as well. Okay, so today math is critical to school success than ever before. As you know, right now, our job market is changing. We are preparing our kids for jobs we don't even know exist yet with technology and everything. So that is one of the reasons we do math several different ways in our classrooms these days, okay? And a lot of these new jobs that don't exist yet are going to require a firm foundation in math. And one of the biggest things you can do is encourage your child that yes, they can do it. Because with all the different ways we teach, sometimes they'll come across something that doesn't click right away for them, but that perseverance and not giving up is huge. Things you can do at home, you can count at home, recipes with your children, things like that. Help them with their homework. If K through 2 probably doesn't have as much as the upper grades, make sure you don't do it for them. Kind of ask them questions about it. And then just math is everywhere. Okay, everywhere. It's all around us. So when you go to the grocery store, when you're slicing a sandwich, you can think about fractions, anything at home. I know the holidays are coming up. When you set the table, for example, knife, fork, spoon, that could be a pattern. If we go knife, fork, spoon, knife, fork, spoon, knife, fork, what would come next? Or counting enough silverware for the family. Anything you can have them do to help you out and do the one-to-one correspondence with counting is huge. Like I mentioned, it's everywhere, and we want flexible thinking, like counting in groups. Like if I asked, and this would be perfect for K through 2, how many birds are there? Okay, some might just go one by one. Some might group some together. They might put those 2 with that one and have 3, and then continue with little groupings. We want that flexible thinker. In Texas, we have what are the process standards. There are 6 of them, and they actually start in kinder and go all the way through 12th grade. And what they are is problem solving, analyzing, and showing multiple strategies on how to do things. So that's a whole goal of our TEKS. You might have heard TEKS before. Our state tells us what to teach at each grade level, and one of the things we emphasize is multiple ways to do things. So what we're going to do, I've kind of already told you how and why things have changed in math. One of the reasons is the job market we're preparing them for is ever changing. Another reason is when I was growing up, things were just taught one way. So now, after research and studies, we know that children are different learners. We have visual learners, we have kinesthetic learners who like to move, we have people who like songs. So, and we want to make sure that we're teaching different ways so we can reach each of their learning styles. Expectations are high for kids. I know some standards have come down from middle school, and we're teaching them in elementary now, and the multiple ways to solve. That's that flexibility with math. If you can keep that in your back of the mind through all the grade levels, that'll help a lot. And then I'm going to give you some websites how you can help at home. I already brought some resources over there, and we'll go over those in a little bit of things you can do at home to help. This is just something, when you see road signs, you can play I Spy, look at the different shapes. When they do geometry, talk about the vertices, number of sides, things like that. Any situation you see in a parking lot, how many white cars, how many red cars, how many white and red cars all together, just all that questioning when you're in your car, okay? I already talked about setting the table, okay? A lot of chores at home involve a lot of math. Grocery shopping, huge. I know the world's changing though. A lot of people order their groceries online and they get delivered. However, do you have to put them away? Yes. So you can have them look at the groceries. As they get older, estimate how much they're going to cost. If I have 1 dozen eggs, how many's in a dozen? What if I had 2 dozens? How many would that be? So all those different questions. But don't be alarmed when you see their homework coming home. Every homework that comes home should match what they've done in the classroom. Okay? It looks a lot different than when we were taught, but it's for those multiple representations and a variety of learners. Okay? So we're going to try some math. This is something your teachers might do in the classroom. It's called number talks or quick images. And one thing in kinder especially is subitizing. And what subitizing is when like you roll a dice and you know exactly how many are there without counting. So if you have a little one at home, board games, anything like that, when you roll this, they should not have to count one by one, can they? Of course. But subitizing, we want them to instantly recognize arrangements of numbers, okay? So that's a skill in kinder. It's called subitizing. And another thing, when they start adding, which in kinder they do, you can roll 2 dice, and let's just say I get a 6 and a 4. We like them to keep that 6 in their mind and count on, instead of counting all. Because if they had a 6 and a 4, right here, we don't want them to start counting them all. Start with the 6 and add on. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So anything you can do like that helps. This is called subitizing, and you'll see it here in a minute. These are quick images. I'm going to show an image really quickly, and I want you to tell me how many there are. How many were up there? Anybody count them? 9. Okay. How did you see that? Does anyone want to share?
2, 4, 6, 8.
And one more? 2, 4, 6, 8, and one more? Anybody see it a different way? 2 groups of 4 and one more. That's kind of how I saw it. Okay, awesome. There's another one. 9 again. How did you see that, ma'am? 5 and 4. Okay, if I go back, isn't that like the dice? And then 4 more. Very good. 10. Okay. Anybody want to explain how they saw that? 2 4s and 2 1s. I kind of saw it by like moving that one in the middle to make it look like a dice. Okay. That's a harder one, isn't it? This is probably getting up to the other grade. Did you 20? You guys got 20? Awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of 4. 5 equal groups of 4. That is something that'll start kind of at the end of 2nd grade. Equal groups, which is multiplication. Okay? So we won't do any more of those since we're K through 2. Okay, a 10 frame. You should have a 10 frame on one of your handouts, either in the back of your number cards, your bright pink number cards. If you have those, you should have a 10 frame. Okay? A 10 frame is the foundation of, one of the early foundations of math, combinations of how to make a 10. Marilyn Burns is like a math guru, and she says making a 10 and making 100 is huge for helping kids later on in math. So what we do is a 10 frame. When your kindergartner, 1st grader sees a 10 frame and it's full, they should not have to count it at all. It's 10, okay? There will be some times when they see it like this, okay? They could, and they should know, it's kind of like that subitizing exactly how many's there. Okay, so there's 8 there. So how many more to make a 10? 2. So one thing you can practice at home is have them writing those equations down. 8 plus 2 equals 10, and then they can reverse the facts. 2 plus 8 equals 10. And if you want to go on to subtraction, you could do 10 minus 2 is 8, and 10 minus 8 is 2. Those are kind of what we call related facts. That is something that if you start in the younger years, it'll help if for 3rd through 5th when they're adding multiple numbers. Because combinations of 10, if they know 5 and 5 is 10, doubles is another one, it really helps them when they're adding multiple quantities. Okay, how many would be there? 22, very good. So this is kind of getting to that 10, 20, 22. Okay, how about there? 23, okay. Another thing about a 10 frame, let me see if I can do my little pointer. This is full, so we want them to know that that's a 10. This one here is half full. So do we want them to count that one by one? No, they should instantly know that that is 5. So really, could they scooch this one up here and have a full one? That's the kind of thinking we want to get them to, and some of your children might already be at that stage. But having these at home can help. They can practice. I also have some little counters. Would anyone want some counters to take home? Okay. There should be about 20 in there. You're welcome. And what you can do is the yellow side could be one of your add-ins, and the red side could be the other. You're welcome. You're welcome. So you can practice at home, okay? You can practice at home, making 10. We want them to know all of their 10 facts and all the different ways to make 10 in K and 1. And we practice in, I think they started off 2nd grade practicing that as well, okay? Oh, and there are some on the back of some of your handouts. So anything with a 10 frame, okay? The other cards I gave you, I think 2nd grades look like these. And Kinder, ooh, did I run out of Kinder? No, here they are. They stapled them. Sorry about that. Kinder right here, look like this. You can play a game called Tens Go Fish, and they probably play it in school quite a bit in the station. Like if I have a 5, a 3, and a 1 in my hand, if I have my 5, I'm going to say, and someone else has cards, it's just like regular Go Fish. Do you have a 5? So they'll take your 5, match it with their 5, and say 5 plus 5 equals 10, and lay it down. So if I had a 4 in my hand, what would I ask my partner for? A 6. So if they didn't have a 6, of course they'd say, no, go fish. But then if they did have a 6, I would take it, make a match. And the good thing you'd do, don't just have them say it, 6 plus 4 equals 10. I would have them write it down as well, okay? And we want to teach them that that equal sign is kind of like a balance scale. Like whatever's, it's going to help them later on in math and algebra, that one side is balanced with the other. Instead of just saying it's equal, if we teach that it's balanced, that kind of helps. So if you got just one set of these, before you leave today, pick up another set. That way you'll have more cards to play in your deck, okay? Because I made several extras. Okay, so you can pick up more than one of these, but Tens Go Fish is a game they play kinder through 2nd grade. It's just that fluency with making a 10. So that's why I brought those cards. Okay, so in 1st grade, you'll start seeing a double 10 frame, okay? This is when it's called 10 and leftovers, and I actually think they just finished that unit, or they might be in it right now. So what you would do, I think if you got the purple cards for 1st grade, there's a double 10 frame on the back, and they would put 8 here, maybe in the red color of the counters I gave you, and then put 7 here, and then 8 plus 7. We want them to be flexible thinkers. Ideally, would we like them to take 2 from that 7 and make a 10? Yes, take 2 from that 7 8 plus 2 is 10, and then they would have 5 left over. So even if they're just in kinder now, if they're mastering their facts of 10 or working with a 10 frame, could you go on to a double 10 frame? Yes, that would be good. It's called tens and leftovers. Starting in first grade, they're gonna have what are base 10 blocks. And I put a couple of sets on your table, or a set or two. These I can't give away, I'm sorry. But they do sell them at Lakeshore. Because when I went to school, I don't remember these at all. But what they do is they start drawing representations of numbers. Okay, representations of numbers. So this is 100. Okay, they shouldn't have to count it. When they see this, they should know automatically that this is 100. And then this is, and this is called a flat, by the way. We want to use the right words. This is called a flat, and its value is 100. This is called a rod, and it's 10. So right now, I was in a first grade room yesterday. They were working on 17. Okay, so they drew, some of the kids might call it a stick, but we want them to call it a rod. They would draw a line, and then they would draw 7 units. These are the units. These little ones, oops, those are stuck together. These little ones right here. Okay, and feel free to take them out and play with them. This is why we're called the base 10 system. It's all based on 10. This is 1 unit, this is a unit. 10 of these make a rod, so that's 10. And then 10 of these make 100. And then there is a cube. Once you start in second grade, I have a long map back here. There is a cube where 10 of these make 1,000. Okay? So they will start drawing these starting, could be at the end of kinder, most likely about right now in first grade. They're drawing some place value representations. So if I was making 24, how would I do that? How many of these would I need? 2, and then how many units?
4.
There you go, 2 rods and a unit, okay? So that's a base 10. You'll see a lot of these representations, and that goes all the way up through 3rd grade, okay? Up through 3rd grade. Starting in 4th or 5th, they change into decimals. So, but we won't get into that today. So right up here, and you might see starting in 2nd grade, do you have 2nd grade? Okay, starting in 2nd grade, you might see addition problems. See these green ones up here? Have you already seen them? So 125 plus 137, or yes, sorry. Okay, so they might see them drawing a representation like that. And the reason is because when they are questioned, a lot of our TEKS or our statements say students need to represent and solve. Sometimes they're just asked a question and they have to pick the representation that matches the story. So they're taught with the base 10 blocks, okay? So this down here, again, is the unit. That's the rod. That's the flat. And this is called a cube. This is what the 1,000 looks like. So using that terminology at home will help, and having them do, I call them quick draws. Like, can you do a quick draw of 43 and see how they do? There's the names of them again. Okay, so that one would be 125. And the sooner you start this, the better. This is another one, just to show an example. Anybody want to add that one up for me?
There's
37? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, it kind of goes, do you see how it kind of relates to the 10 frame?
Mm-hmm.
If you take that 10 frame and cut it in half and stack it, doesn't it look like that? And then the reason they put 5 here, because that's half of that 10 frame. Okay, they really don't have to count those. Do we want them to count them? Yes, because sometimes they might put them all in one line, but that is why they have it like that. So that 10 frame that starts in kinder kind of turns in to these base 10 blocks in 1st and 2nd grade. Yes,
So I
ma'am.
have a question about the units.
Uh-huh.
Are they presented spaced out just because spatially it's easier for the brain to determine how many? Because I guess I think, why isn't it just half of a rod
Oh,
all put together? Or is it just because spatially their brain needs to map it
I
with
would
the
think
units spaced out?
spatially it's easier for them to count, but to be honest, I would do it both ways.
Okay.
I would represent it both ways. Because in third grade, let me go back. If they can cut that in half, because sometimes
start
they'll
getting
get
more
into
fractions and
regrouping.
regrouping.
Yes. When they get into regrouping and things like that, you'll want them to be able to take half of that, which is 5. So, but that's a good question. They kind of spaced it out a little bit here for easier counting. Okay? But you might see it all together. So always encourage your child to, especially if things come easily to them, to check their work another way. Okay? If they do this really fast and get the right answer, just encourage them, is there another way you could do that? That's that flexible thinking and multiple strategies. Okay, this would be second grade. You will not see this in first grade. First grade only goes up to 120, but this would be in second grade. Anyone want to add that up for me?
1,343.
I heard it, 1,343. Another thing, if you see homework like this come home, encourage them to label everything. Okay? We want them to label this 1,000, however they want to label this, 100, 200, 300, and that'll help them with expanded form, which they'll see starting in first grade actually. What that is when for this one, do you guys remember expanded form in school? It's when you take the number apart. For this one, it'd be 1,000 plus 300 plus 40 plus 3. You're taking each digit apart by its value. And they'll see that a lot starting in first grade. Expanded form. Another thing they do is they count on a number line. Okay, have you seen a lot of number lines coming home? A lot of number lines. How far is it from 29 to 53? Okay, teachers should be doing a lot of number talks as well, where they can do some mental math. Does anyone know the difference between 29 and 53? 24? Okay. Now, in my head, remember how we would stack and subtract or stack and add, okay? We're kind of getting away from that. We want them to do things either mentally or on a number line, or some of you, if you were in kinder, you grabbed a hundreds chart. Do you have a hundreds chart there? First grade, you got a 120, and I believe second grade, you have a 200 chart. Another thing we do in the classrooms for this is we'd start at 29, and how many jumps is it to 53? Okay? We want to encourage counting by tens. So could you go from 29 to 39 to 49 and then count on to 53? Okay, your child might want to count one by one, and that's fine, but eventually that making a 10 or adding 10 to any number, that's like a little song you could even do in your car. Like, let's start at 13 and count by tens. 23, 33, 43. If you can count by tens from any given number, that's a wonderful skill for them to have. And it's going to help them when they start adding on a number line, which actually starts in first grade. So this one, you can use a number line or a hundreds chart. Here's the hundreds chart right here. That's what they use in kinder, 120 for first grade. They would start at 29, and they could go one by one, and at this time of the year they might be there. You want to make sure they have one-to-one correspondence and don't go too fast. Or 29 plus 10, 39 plus 10 more, that's 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Another representation they'll be taught in class is how adding up on a number line. So 29 plus one more, that's a friendly number. That's another word you might see come home as a friendly number or benchmark number, and sometimes they're called compatible numbers. These are just easier numbers to work with, okay? So then we go to 30, and then look at here. This is why that 10 is so important. Right here, they jump by 20. But if they're just starting out, could they jump by 10 and then jump by 10 more? And that's probably how I would start out. And then they just have 3 more to go to get to 53. And then when you add up all these jumps, that's your difference, which is 24. Okay? To me, one reason we have this is that's kind of that kinesthetic learner that likes jumps. This is more for the visual learner. Okay? Now eventually, will they get to the standard algorithm when you put 53 minus 29? Yes, but believe it or not, that's really not till 3rd grade. Okay, so it's all these other ways. They might start a little bit in 2nd towards the end of the year, but really it's all these different representations. So any questions on that? Yes, ma'am.
It was called friendly number, benchmark number, or
Compatible numbers. Okay, just numbers that are easier for them to work with. Instead of the hard, fast rounding rules, we're kind of going more towards that. Their numbers, oh, there's one more word, landmark numbers. So anytime you can skip count by 10s in the car, by 5s, by 2s, I would start with those. Those are the easier numbers. That would be great. When they start in 2nd grade, you could start, if they have the 2s, 5s, and 10s down, you could start with the 3s, okay? That's going to help them with their multiplication facts. So a lot of times teachers will do a number talk with just skip counting. Okay, here's another way, mental math, okay? We want children to be able to solve that mentally because sometimes you don't have paper with you, okay? So can anyone solve that mentally? I know we have some great mathematicians here today. 81, okay. So what if I was doing this as a number talk in my room, I would probably have 6 different ways that children would solve it. Number talks are like my favorite. The kids come up to the carpet, you talk about it, okay? So someone might solve it like this. And this is kind of that, you might see the word decomposing. They decompose a number. They're breaking it apart by place value. So if I do take apart my 30 and my 40, 30 and 40 is 70. Take apart my ones place value, 6 plus 5 is 11, and then 70 plus 11 is 81, okay? Another child might say, and actually someone did the other day, I would take 5 from this and put it with that 45 and make 50. And then I would have 31 left over. And that's okay. That's what our goal is that flexible thinking and doing it multiple ways. So even at home with notebook paper, you could write some of these down. Don't let your student use a pencil, but have them try some mental math. And then if they explain it one way, ask them, is there another way that you could solve that? And there's our total. Okay, we've already talked about a number line. This is called an open number line. There's no tick marks or anything. I think the laminated pad right here, this laminated 120s chart, that could be for all 3 grade levels. There's your double 10 frame. There's your open number line. So with your expo markers, you could practice adding on a number line. And for subtracting, like the one we did, 53 minus 29, you can add up on a number line. Okay? So this would be good practice. I think I kind of already went over this. Why do we teach math differently? It's because we have our visual learners, our kinesthetic learners, linguistic, interpersonal, musical. We're trying to hit all these different learning styles. I know I started teaching late in life, about like 16 years ago, and it just changes every year. We have to differentiate because we have so many different types of learners in our classroom. Because when I was growing up, I was just kind of taught one way, sit there and listen and learn. Yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. But now we're trying to do more cooperative, like working in our table groups with a partner. And in the math department, we call it the 4 C's. Because when I talked earlier, the jobs we're training them for don't even exist yet. But our children have to be able to communicate. They have to be able to talk. In math, we call it explaining and justifying their answer. So they have to be able to communicate. They have to be able to collaborate. We have to be able to work in a group. Creativity, we want them to be creative. That's why we have the different ways to solve. And then the other one is critical thinking. That's at how could you solve it another way? Okay, those 4 C's are really important to embed in our instructions in the math classroom. And then we have a variety of strategies. And then when they get to the STAR testing levels, sometimes they won't even solve a problem. They'll just get a math story problem, and they'll have to choose a number line that matches that story problem. They'll have to choose a representation, like the base 10 blocks that matches that problem. So that's kind of why we start in the younger grades. All these representations, they might be a little difficult for some, but they have to be able to recognize them. Money. A lot of us don't use money anymore. We use our debit. We just swipe everything. So important. Starting in kinder, they have to recognize the coins and describe them, their color, their texture, their feel. First grade, they have to know the value of all the coins. This is a great anchor chart. You might see these in some of the classrooms. And then in second grade, they have to be able to add a collection of coins up to $1. Could you go beyond $1? Of course, that would be great. So anytime you have extra coins in your car, in your pocket, practice with your child at home, counting those up. Once again, skip counting by 5s and 10s. Is that going to help this? Yes. Someone had a
I
question.
was just going to say that activities that are more community-based, that Huebner sponsors, that involve this, something like this, are fantastic. Like the Dime Drive recently was a wonderful activity
And
for
it's still on.
our family. Yes.
Okay.
So I think wherever we can help with programs, either come from PTA or through the school that are about community support or giving, even like the candy drive, like things like that, it just helps with sort of the counting
Yes.
and the money side of
It does, yes. And the candy drive, that'd be great for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just everything, anything they could do to count. And real life situations are the best because they're more engaged, they're more involved. So anything like that is wonderful. And every grade level has like a financial literacy unit where they have to know about money, collection of coins. In the upper grades, it's income and expenses, and a budget, believe it or not, in 5th grade. So, and then notice here, could we use our 100 charts to add money? Skip counting by 25s when they're ready. Probably 2nd grade would be a good thing too to help you count your quarters. 25, 50, 75, $1. So things like that. So money's something you can work with. And of course the symbols for money. Part, whole. This was new to me. Some of your, I think it's purple if you got a 1st grade group or a 1st grade mat. If you did not get one and you want one for kinder, they're right here. There you go, thank you. This will lead nicely. We have something in the upper grades if you have an older student called strip diagrams. And what it is, we want our children to think of parts and a total or a whole. So notice sometimes it's on the top, the whole is right here, and sometimes it's on the bottom. So this is kind of like the 10 frame again. If I had a 5 and a 5 here, what would be my total? 10, okay? If I had a 6 here and a 12 up here, what would be my other part?
6.
A 6. See how you kind of have to think? So the older they get, of course, we want larger numbers. In 2nd grade, they might have, John had 23 seashells. He gave 79 to his, well, no, he had 23. He gave 79 to his friend. How many did he start with? You see how it gets a little more complicated? So these part wholes, they're easy to draw, but I wanted to give you a sample. You want to encourage that type of thinking, especially when they're deciding when to add and when to subtract. If you don't know your total, you're going to have to combine or add. If you do know your total, you're probably going to have to subtract. Okay? And another thing, years ago we used to teach keywords, like when it says more you add, or when it says less you subtract. We want to get away from that. What we want to do is when we read a little paragraph or sentence or two, we want our children to think of it as like a story. Like we have a couple of characters, what are they doing? Well, he has some seashells. He gave some away, but he started with a whole bunch. So we really want to get into the comprehension or the context of the problem instead of just, oh, like it says more, I'm gonna add. So we really want to get away from them really understanding what they're reading before they try to solve, because they will start solving word problems in first and second grade. Okay, so sometimes they'll have to read it more than once, or have them retell it to you in their own words. Okay, I don't have a slide for this, but these are called number bonds. It's kind of a similar thing. Here's a part, here's a part, here's a total. I think one of your handouts has that too, in kinder or first. So this is your total, here are your parts. Making a 10 is huge. So if they put a 10 here, 1 and 9. Put a 10 here, 2 and 8. 10 here, 3 and 7. That's a pattern. 1, 2, you know, one side's getting larger, one side's getting smaller, or one side. So anything you can do with number bonds works as well, okay? Any questions on those? Okay, you might see some of those coming home. Part, whole. And sometimes, especially when you get to second grade, they might have 3 parts. So it might be a part, whole, okay? This is some ways you can help at home. Just some questions, I'll just let you read those. These are ones they encourage you asking all the time. Oh, look at, there's that word explain. And then this is at times. Although I'm not sure why it says at times, this draw a picture, that's my favorite strategy of all time. Kinder through 5th grade. I mostly taught 4th and 5th grade when I was in the classroom. But if they don't give you a picture, should you draw a picture? Yes. Drawing a picture is my favorite problem solving strategy. Okay? So those are just some things you can help ask at home when they're trying to figure something out. What do you know about this problem so far? Is there another way we can think about this? I think I mentioned have them solve it multiple ways. Okay? Just not one and done. Sometimes teachers, I don't have one with me, but they'll have a paper with something in the middle. It's called a Frere model. And then they'll have 4 different ways. And they'll want the child to take the problem represented on a number line with the base 10 blocks. Okay, with expanded form is when you break it apart, like 30 plus 6 plus 40 plus 5, whatever the problem was, and then another way. And a lot of times they'll say justify your thinking using the words, that communication. Okay, these are some of, this is just what you can do at home. We want to make sure we don't say, oh, I was never good at math either. I've heard that many times. We don't want to say that. I know. Because some of us, I mean, science is real hard for me. Writing was hard. I was a 4th grade teacher, and writing's huge in 4th grade, and I really had to work at that. But we want to stay positive. Add that word yet. Well, if your child says, oh, I can't do this, just say, well, you can't do it yet. I'm going to help you. You know? And if I can't help you, I'm going to ask the teacher. Or that lady from the district, Mrs. Haberthur, gave me her email, so she can give me some suggestions. But connect back to everything you do. Make it fun. Have high expectations. Even though you have a kindergartner, could they go on and start doing some of this 1st grade and 2nd grade stuff? Yes. Make it fun. Don't make it like, oh, you're doing this, you know, but we want to make math fun and engaging. We want them to enjoy it. Because it's kind of fun to me. It's fun to figure it out different ways. So we just want to encourage that. And then just support their homework. I know you would never do it for them. You know, you just want to encourage them to give it a try. Oh, there it is. Never say I was never good at math. Play games with simple math. The dice helps with the subitizing in kinder that I showed you earlier. Any type of board games, that's that communicating, critical thinking. Ask them what did they learn in class today. And don't take nothing for an answer. Make them explain it. Talk through the math problems, real life math examples at home. Computation practice. That's just when you're adding and subtracting or eventually multiplying and dividing more than one way. Just say, oh, I learned about number lines. Can you show me on a number line? Or how about can you show me in a part, whole? They'll be going, how do you know about that? So any of these you can do. These are some websites that help you. Yes, take a picture of that. My favorite is mathfortexas.org. It goes by grade level. I just discovered it this year, actually. And then there are some games they can actually play online. It might only let you play once or twice before you have to subscribe, but it gives them a good foundation, has everything they need to know. This Khan Academy, yes, I see someone shaking their head. It's a great one. They used to just have videos of, like if you put in double 10 frames, some things will come up, or adding on a number line, things will come up. But now they actually have some problems they can solve as well. So those are my two favorites, mathfortexas.org and the Khan Academy. And then this right here is the state. That tells you exactly by grade level what every single child will be learning and teachers will be teaching. But I kind of summarize the teaks up on that first page you picked up that has kinder, first or second grade. There's bullet points. I try to summarize those into what they need to know in that grade level. Okay, but feel free to take another grade level above or two above. Is there anything you have questions with anything that I passed out, or anything you've seen coming home that I can help you with?
Well, what are some different ways I would use this?
Oh, the number line? Okay, what I would do, that's actually 2 number lines. So I would probably cut it out and maybe extend it to 1 through 20. So that's when you could do some skip counting. Oh, thank you. So this has like a double number line. There's actually 2 on there. Cut it out, put it 1 through 20. And then you could do adding on a number line, especially for kinder, first grade. Like how far is it from 2 to 14? And that's those hops and jumps. In first grade, they usually go by ones. Okay? So you can add on it, you can subtract on it, you could have them just do their counting, skip counting by 2s. Okay? Look for patterns. They could do red, yellow, green, anything like that. So, okay? Counting on a number line. If you want to start with just 1 through 10, that's fine as well. But by the end of kinder, they should be able to know through 20 or more. High expectations. Okay? Okay, any other questions? Are y'all good?
This makes a lot more sense now.
Does it? Good. I'm glad. I think the biggest thing for me is when they get older, and it's for me, it's clicking for me too. Like I said, I taught 4th and 5th grade, and I've been at this job about a year, I believe, because last year I did this, and it was one of my first gigs.
Right.
But when I look at the 10 frame, I can see now how they cut it and make it the base 10, the rods. So it all flows really naturally, but it's just all the different representations and the multiple ways. We want to keep reinforcing them in the younger grades because it's going to help them as they get older. So, and just having the love of math, I think that's the key. When you love something, you try hard, and
Where do you see any common hurdles or roadblocks in any of these techniques that we need to sort of be watchful for and can help the kids overcome?
I do. Oh, I can demonstrate one right now. There is subtraction. I think is kind of difficult for kids when they start getting to, let's say, 3rd grade. Let's go, even in 2nd grade, 314 minus 289, okay? Sometimes with the regrouping or the borrowing is what we called it, they have a difficult time. So your teacher might go like this, represent the 314, there's 100, 200, 314, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that 314?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now could I take away some? Yes. Could I take away 200?
Mm-hmm.
Let me do a different color. Could I take away 80? Okay, got rid of this. Could I take away 80? I could. That's 100, right? What teachers will have them do, and this is something you can do, you can exchange that for how many make 100? 10, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That wasn't very good. I apologize. Now can I take away 80?
Mm-hmm.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. How many do I have left? 20. Can I take 9 away? Well, I only have 4 units. What am I gonna have to do?
Break one of those tens.
There you go. I'm gonna break or decompose one of those 10s into how many? 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now can I take 9 away?
Yes.
Yes. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. What do I have left? Well, I don't have any hundreds. How many 10s?
2,
2. 2 10s is
20,
20. How many ones?
5,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 20 plus 5 is 25. Okay? That's one way they might learn. Another way is on a number line. Okay? But what I would do is I would encourage them to perhaps start with the ones. Because what I see when they get to 3rd grade, they want to start subtracting over here. Do you see what I mean? Because we show them all these different ways and they're used to doing it this way, but we want to eventually in 3rd grade, this is called the standard algorithm, how we subtracted, but we want them to know that I don't have enough ones to take away 9. So I'm going to take, instead of Bart, I'm going to take one of my 10s. Now I'm not going to have any left. I'm going to put a 10 here with that, and now it is a 10 plus 4 is 14. So instead of just take this one, you know how we were, don't take one from here borrowed, have the talk about the place value. So now I don't have any 10s, 14 minus 9, I have 5 ones left. If I don't have any 10s, can I take 8 10s away? No. So I can borrow from my hundreds. I had 300, I'm going to take 100 away. Now I have 200 left. Now I have 10, but I have 10 10s. Isn't that the same as 100? That's what I borrowed. So 10 minus 8 is 2. Or 100 minus 80 is 20, okay? And then here I don't have anything. So just the conversation when you're borrowing and regrouping, if you can include the place value, I think that would help. Yes, ma'am?
Has the conversation surrounding how to check your work changed?
No, it
Like,
hasn't
so,
changed.
'cause we used to just flip,
Yes.
the sign, so
Right.
are we more for the undergrad saying to solve it in a different way?
I like solving it with a different strategy works, but like if this one was here, I would have mine still check their work 289 plus 25 to make sure it's 314. But yes, anytime you subtract, in my classroom it was a rule, you have to check it with addition. It's always good. You want to have a double checking system. But I would probably want them to solve it another way. Could they do a number line? And this is where it gets different. Like I said, sometimes there might be a story problem about someone having 314 cars and 289 of them were given away. They might have to choose a number line that matches. So you would start at 289. Okay, that's not a very friendly number, right? So could I jump 1 and get to 290? Yes. Ooh, could I jump 10 more and get to 300? Oh, am I really close? Should I know I only have to jump 14 more? If I jump 14 more, would I be at 314? Yes. So anytime you can draw an open number line, and then when you add these, because they will do this in 2nd grade, they'll do it in 1st grade with lower numbers. I did a jump of 1, a jump of 10, a jump of 14, and isn't that 25? It's a lot of different ways to solve, isn't it? But they're taught each of those ways. My advice is make sure your child has one way that works for them all the time. That's their go-to strategy. But also make sure they can do it another way to double check. Okay? But subtraction is one thing that I see children struggle with. But adding up on a number line, adding's a lot easier than subtracting. Or adding up in your head. You know, some kind of, but we don't, I know we always say show your work. So if I was adding up in my head, I would probably write, well, I'm going to do 1 to get to 290. I'm going to do 10 more to get to 300. I'm going to do 14 more. Some kind of justifying or explaining. But we want them to have that flexibility. Those multiple strategies. And they will come back in 2nd grade. I think they've already done the 2-digit addition subtraction. They're going to go on to 3-digit addition subtraction. So, but subtraction's really the big thing that I see. Other than that, the children can do more than we think they can do. They really can. You know, I think sometimes when we weren't taught that way, it's not natural for us. It's some teachers' tendency to go to one way, but all teachers are teaching a variety of strategies. Okay? But encourage your child to have one that works for them every time. And practice making tens. They should know their 10 facts like that. And skip counting. Skip counting helps too. So, okay, yes, ma'am.
At what point will they be able to do that in their head? Because I can't imagine in high school they're going to be drawing lines.
No. At what point in their head? Well, you know, some struggle with mental math? Yes. In high school, they'll be doing the standard algorithm.
Because like when I looked at that, I was thinking like I kind of looked at it like the tens grouping. So
Right.
I'm like, okay, so there's 14 and then 11 makes
25,
300,
yes.
So 25.
Yes.
But that would never show.
Right, I
There's no
know.
picture for that.
Right. Yes, that's why I said just to keep track of your thinking and be able to justify it with words. A lot of times teachers will do quick writes where they have to explain their thinking. So, but you know, sometimes we don't have paper and pencil. I know phones all have calculators, you know. Well, how much more money do I need? You know, wouldn't it be neater if you said, well, I need, you know, $25 more, you know? It's just that flexibility, you know? Internet's not working or we don't have something there, so that flexibility of thinking is our goal and multiple strategies. So.
There's an app for that, but there is an app that we really enjoy doing together as like me and my son and my daughter or dad and one of the kids, and it's Number Not.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if you've seen that, but
I have it.
basically it's kind of like 10 frames and 100 frames where there are certain numbers filled in and you have to fill in all of the others to create the pattern to get from 1 to 100. And you don't always have 1 and 100 filled in.
Okay.
So you're basically trying to work all the numbers and the associations in between. And interestingly enough, I didn't think my Finley, when she was in kindergarten last year, I was like, there's no way she's ready for this.
Right.
She knocked out the 10, 20, and 30 frames immediately, and I would not consider her more of an advanced math thinker. I would consider her very average, and it was amazing how much she took to it because it was fun because she could create almost like a maze, or you end up creating a knot because of how many times you have to go around the square.
Okay.
The square. So. Number Not, that's a fun one.
Number
And
Not with
Number
a K,
Not,
N-O-T?
exactly.
Number and then Not with a K.
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let me write that down.
And the more like packages you complete, the more you earn, and you earn like little badges for how many times you do it. You can earn hints if you need a hint because you get stuck.
And that's with those patterns. There's so many patterns in numbers. So I believe one of these, I think it's the 120s chart. If you didn't take, I just have a few left, but if you look on the back, see how some
That's
of
exactly
is
what
this,
Number
I
Not
think
is
when you
like.
said that.
That's exactly what it is.
And your teachers sometimes will do number puzzles where they'll cut out different patterns and the kids have to put them together. So this is kind of what she was explaining, why we give them some numbers, but they have to fill in the rest. Okay? So if you didn't get one of these, this would be good. Okay, but I love that numbernot.com. Is it an app?
It's an app.
It's an app. I shouldn't have put the .com, but yeah. So anything you can do like that, and ask them what patterns do you notice. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What do you notice? So thank you for sharing that. Okay, anything else while I'm here? Thank you for
Thank you.
for working with your children at home and